We are now joined by the CEO of Latino Wall Street, Gabriela Barospi, joins us. Thank you so much. Now, we've got this debate coming up tomorrow night. I'm expecting some kind of an entertaining train wreck. I'm actually looking forward to it. Kamala Harris has recently adopted many different accents at these events. But, Trump seems to be a lot stronger this third time around, at least with a lot of the actual minority or people of color vote, right? You didn't see him in New York City campaigning in the way that you did this time around, even in 2016 or 2020. There is that, I think, relation to people that feel like they've been persecuted and prosecuted by the justice system. You already saw that climb, but certainly after the assassination attempt as well. And I don't think that's an aspect that people are talking about. So what are your thoughts on what Trump has to continue to do to try to get that Latino vote?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I mean, for sure, he needs to focus on the issues that we care about the most, which is basically the economy, right? Inflation, cost of living. Latinos have been one of the groups that have been affected the most because statistically, Latinos in the US have lower income levels, and they're least likely to own a home. So these are the things that we care about. I think Trump has done a lot better this time around than the previous time, which is the opposite of Kamala, right? So under other administrations, in other elections, Latinos were very much supporting, the Clintons, Obama, even Biden. But now it's not strong. So I do think Trump has a good opportunity here. Also, I think he needs to lean on the fact that if we were to lose this election and Kamala was to continue with that controversial ideology she has, that we could become the next Venezuela, right? And some people think that's really out there to say that, but really that's how it starts, right? It starts with censorship, it starts with corruption, with all these things. So I think that he needs to speak directly to that, because that's the main reason why Latinos moved to the United States, right? We moved to get away from the corruption, to get away from the high levels of crime in our Latin American countries. So he really needs to lean on that and speak to us directly, because we do feel that in the last debate, we were not exactly acknowledged. So I think more messages directly to the Latino community that really clicks and resonates with them will be key.
Now, you mentioned the economy, and I would argue that is really how you converted most people that either had never voted before or were voting the other side of the political party. There's less money. Inflation is out of control. You really can't ignore it if you are middle class, or even what was traditionally upper middle class. I often argue now, really, to be upper middle class, you've probably got to be pulling in seven figures before taxes, at least between the two of you, if you want a nice home in a nice neighborhood. And that's just absurd. At the same time, I think at this point, most people that have made that step to register to vote and voted in previous elections know who they're voting for. And really right now, what we're trying to do is find the people that have never voted before. Do you kind of have that sense, even in the Latino community, to drive people to finally register and say, hey, you may have never voted before, but you're paying 3 times as much for dairy and eggs than you were 4 years ago? Is that acceptable?
Yeah, exactly. And those are the issues I try to raise with my community, because at the end of the day, it comes down to, it's not about who do we like better, right? That's silly. It's about, when were our lives better? When were you better off? When was it easier for you to afford groceries, for you to buy a house, for you to get a better mortgage? And it was 100% under the Trump administration. Those are just the facts. So people at the end of the day, they're going to think about their personal specific situations, what affects them. And part of what I do in Latino Wall Street is to just raise awareness about the facts, right? It's not even about taking sides or talking good or bad about someone. It's really, my work is never about a specific candidate. It's always about the economy, right? The facts, and when were we better off? Also, we have 65 million Latinos in the US. Around 31 million are voting age, and we have 23% of Latino voters who are going to vote for the very first time in 2024. And that's huge. That's huge. 37% of Latino voters are new since 2016. So these are the people that we need to focus on as well. We also have many independent voters right now who were, for example, on Kennedy's side, and we're supporting him. And I did multiple interviews with him. He did very well with the Latino vote. So now that he's with Trump, I do think that can help a lot. Assuming he will be part of the administration, which at the end of the day, that's what a lot of them want to see.
So one of the economic policies that, gets Trump a lot of traction, I think is talking about no tax on tips, right? We are a large service economy. I think it even goes outside of, being a waiter or a waitress. You look at the explosion in casinos around the country, and let's be honest, there's a tip cup in just about every aspect of life. 90% of the places, they don't deserve it, but hey, that's another argument for another time. When, my favorite Mexican place, Los Amigos, full family run business, those people who are running around 8 to 12 hours a day should be able to keep those tips. That's money that's already been earned, taxed 1,000 times, and given. This shouldn't even be an argument. Now, Kamala Harris jumped on that as a policy. I bring this up because, it's extremely disingenuous, and I recently saw a political cartoon that kind of encapsulated it, right? It's Trump in a diner, young black woman telling her, I'm not going to tax your tips. She's looking at him like, hey, that's a great idea. Second panel, Kamala Harris in the window, I'm not going to tax your tips either, vote for me. Then the third panel is her talking to Harris and going, hey, you realize you're the vice president, right? You could probably make that policy happen right now. So why am I being taxed? And the truth of the matter is, if they were genuine about this, and honestly, it would be an amazing political move for them, they would fast track that before the election, because that could actually win them some votes. However, they're not going to do that, because if a Harris administration comes in, they might not tax all of your tips, but I guarantee you they're going to slide something in. Oh, you only have to claim 25% of your tips. And then over time, it'll be 50% of your tips. And then a decade from now, you'll be right where you started, only your money will be worth, I don't know, we'll be lucky if it's worth half as much as it is today. Do you think that's a accurate statement? And is that the feeling of most people when they see Harris glom onto something like this?
Yeah, when it comes to the tips, it really doesn't make sense, because, as you said, it's money that has been taxed, right, already. It's kind of like a similar thing with the Social Security. When Trump says we should eliminate taxes on Social Security, it's because, well, we already pay taxes and we're just getting our money back. So, these are a lot of things that affect people directly. And I think it's very important to have clarity on that too, because a lot of the things that she says she's going to do, she's going to help us so much with, mortgage payments, child credits, business credits, all these different things. But it's back to what you said, right? Why haven't you done it? Because you've been in the administration for almost 4 years. Biden has been in the administration for almost 12, because we cannot forget he was vice president, right, with Obama. So that's a long time. So why are you saying, oh, you're ready for a new chapter, you're going to do all these things, when you have had so many opportunities, like literally years, to propose this? I just think it's she's just saying whatever she needs to say to get votes, because a lot of the things that she's proposing, like, it doesn't even make sense, right? Like the price controls in Latin America, we lived that with Venezuela and Cuba. That never worked. The price controls, telling supermarkets how much they can charge. That's not capitalism. That's not good for business. So I just think that it's not authentic, and it's not going to happen. And I think she has a huge credibility issue because she cannot do any interviews. So tomorrow will be a defining moment. It will be very eye-opening for us to see if she can really, step it up. And Latinos are going to be looking for us to get mentioned, looking for us to get acknowledged. We are a strong minority, and our vote really matters and counts. So I think they actually both need to step it up in addressing us directly.
And just to address Harris in these economic positions, remember, she was the president of the Senate as the vice president, and the deciding vote to have more IRS agents come on the scene and investigate your $600 plus bank transfers and purchases. So I think, again, that shows you where she ultimately stands. Now, you've talked about the fact that she hasn't really done the interviews. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. It was expected with Dementia Joe because, again, he couldn't coherently talk. This woman's supposed to be able to. She is, I mean, I don't even know if grating is the word, because when I watch more than 5 minutes of her, it's useless cackling, it's smiling, there's nothing of substance there. It's very, very hard for me to watch, but if you believe the media, this is it. It's her moment, literally, on the cover of Time magazine. Now, I know that you just got a text for a donation, and I'm looking at the picture here, and it's clearly not a picture of the current Kamala Harris. I'd say it's beyond filtered and photoshopped. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Latino Victory, right? There's a pack that's called Latino Victory, and they send a text with, I believe it's AI. I mean, it has to be, right? With Kamala as a Latina, being represented as if she's Latina, and together we're going to elect her and vote for her, donate for her. And this is the actual problem, right? It's a perfect symbol. It's a representation of one of the main issues with her, is that they're rewriting the narrative of who she is. Like, who is she exactly? Because nobody's clear, right? Is she Indian? Is she Black? Now they're trying to say she's Latina. Somehow that's connected. Being a minority, she's like us. It's really sad because it doesn't make sense. So, I think at the end of the day, Latinos are not stupid, and we're very much used to corrupt politicians, because our history, right? If you look at the history of Latin American countries, in my country, in Peru, all the former presidents, almost all of them are in jail, right? That's just how bad it is. So we're very much used to all these lies, corruption, trying to jail political opponents, sending them to court, all this stuff. It's like we're reliving it. The high crime rates in the city is like, oh my God, that's why we left. So I'm really hoping that everyone is going to open their eyes at the debate tomorrow and say, you know what, this is fake. There's no other way to put it.
Well, I think there's been a massive inversion of reality, and a lot of that has not only been achieved through politicians, but the media itself, right? Somehow the media is trying to spin that Dick Cheney getting behind Kamala Harris is a positive thing for Kamala Harris. Hey, I missed the moment where Dick Cheney was ever popular, let alone his daughter Liz. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they promote out there as the mainstream, while they're trying to promote her as this woman of color with multiple accents, as I highlighted before. It's the old white guy that's been compared to Darth Vader too many times to mention on those very networks that gets behind her, and we're like, let's give her a vote. I mean, that's where we're at, right?
Yeah, it's nonsense. I actually tweeted about it yesterday. I said, okay, let's see who supported Kamala this week, right? Dick Cheney, the most pro-war, vice president we have seen, the most controversial, how he profited in the Middle East through Halliburton, right? We see him. And then we see Putin, right? The dictator and communist from Russia, saying he liked Biden and that he now supports Kamala. Like, honestly, in the beginning, I thought it was a joke, right? Maybe he was kidding. But then it dawned on me. I was like, wait, it makes sense. If she's speaking about, price controls or this Marxist ideology. It would actually make sense if he supports her, right? So I think these are not good endorsements. I mean, I'll be shocked if she mentions that, because I think that shows that's exactly who we don't want to vote for. Would you want someone who's supported by Dick Cheney in office? Would you want someone who's supported by Putin in office? I think not.
I have not delved into the Poot endorsement, but I assure you after the show, I'm going to be looking into that. We got a couple minutes left in the segment. If you are talking about to somebody out there that is politically active, like myself, and has been in there, what would you suggest them to get other people out to vote that have just never voted, whether they're young people or old people? They're what they call black-pilled, right? They don't think they can make a difference in any way, shape, or form. And look, I'm not sold that we have free and fair elections. I think the system is ultra corrupt. But I tell people like this: I'm going to go through every avenue that I possibly can that is within this arena and structure before the wheels fall off to say at least I tried. Right? When we hit that moment, when the Constitution and Bill of Rights are out the window, when we're in martial law, when we're in some kind of, second or third world dystopian hellscape, okay, then we can start talking. And in some ways we are, but we have to go through these mechanisms so we can try to reform them, no?
Yes, 100%. So why would I tell someone who's on the fence, basically, right, about voting because they don't believe they can make a difference? Look, I think to say like one vote can make a difference is a bit of a stretch, but I don't think it's about that. I think it's about principle, right? That the fact that you have the right to vote, there's many people around the world who don't. So it's about that principle, just to get out there, get your voice heard. And like you said, just say, I tried. It's very important. Also people need to know that even the most communist countries actually have elections. Some people don't know that. Some people don't know there's elections in Russia. They don't know there's elections in Venezuela. But the difference is that they just do everything and anything to ban the competitors, right, from the opponents from the ballot, send them to court, sue them, do all these things that we have seen. So if anything, it's just about supporting, the one who's getting screwed over by the system. And this whole narrative that I liked from Kennedy and that I like with Trump about this anti-corruption, anti-establishment, disruptive, let's just fight and find freedom again and make America great again and healthy again and all these things. I think it's about being a stand for that, and your vote represents that. So I think
Gabriella?
Yeah.
We have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. And listen, they're imperfect, but that message rings too. Hour 2 of the show coming up after this. More TNT.